I knew two things about men like him. First, they didn't notice guys like me. Second, if they did, it usually meant trouble, the kind that either left you 6 feet under or begging for mercy you would never get. So when his icy blue gaze found mine across that smoky backroom in Brooklyn, I should have run. Instead, I stared back. Maybe it was stupidity. Maybe it was fate. But the moment I saw him, the air felt heavier, like the city itself was holding its breath. His name was Adrian Kane. The newspapers called him the alpha of the underworld, cold-blooded, untouchable, and merciless. I called him the man who ruined my life, though if I was honest, he might have saved it too. The first time we spoke, my hands were trembling. I was delivering packages for a guy who owed him money, a guy who had conveniently disappeared that morning. Adrian's men cornered me before I even made it to the door. Then he stepped forward, tall and immaculate in a black suit that looked like it cost more than my yearly rent. His eyes scanning me like he could read every sin I'd ever committed. "You're not Marcus," he said, voice smooth but sharp. "No," I admitted. "Marcus skipped town. And left you to deal with his mess?" His lips curved, not a smile, not exactly. "Something more dangerous." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I just came to drop this off. I didn't know." "You didn't know who it belonged to?" He stepped closer, and the scent of expensive cologne and gunpowder clung to him. I froze. Every instinct screamed to leave, but there was something magnetic in the way he looked at me, like I was more than some errand boy, like I was useful. "Tell me your name," he ordered. "Eli," I said before I could stop myself. He studied me, his gaze lingering on my leather jacket, the scuffed boots, the calloused hands. Then, to my shock, he reached out and brushed his fingers over my chin. The touch was brief, but it sent a jolt through me. "Eli," he repeated, tasting the syllables. "You're going to work for me now." The room went silent. I blinked, thinking I'd misheard him. "To am not. You are now," he cut in, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Marcus is gone. That leaves you. And I think you might be exactly what I need." I should have said no. I should have walked out. But the truth was, I didn't have much to walk back to. My life was a string of dead-end jobs and unpaid bills. Maybe that's why, when Adrian Kane gave me that razor-sharp smile, I nodded. From that day on, I was his. At first, it was just small errands, delivering messages, watching the door during meetings. But then it got darker. He'd send me to pick up payments from men twice my size, or to drop off envelopes that were heavier than they should have been. And the more I did for him, the more I realized he wasn't just a criminal, was a king. Every street, every deal, every shadow in this city bent to him. And for some reason I couldn't understand, he kept me close. Late nights in his office, he'd pour himself a glass of whiskey and ask me questions no one else dared to. Where I grew up, who I trusted, what I wanted. And I'd answer even when I didn't want to. His presence was overwhelming, too much, too close, but I never stepped away. One night, after a meeting went bad and he ended up with blood on his cuff, I found him alone in the alley behind the club. His tie was loose, his eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured when he saw me. "Neither should you," I shot back before I could think. He laughed, low and dangerous. Then he stepped forward, closing the distance between us until my back hit the brick wall. His hand came up, fingers curling under my jaw, tilting my face toward his. "You don't fear me," he said, almost like it was a question. I swallowed, my pulse pounding. "Should I?" His smile was slow, deliberate. "Yes." But then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming, fierce, like he was stamping his name into me. And I hated how much I wanted him. When he finally pulled back, his breath was warm against my ear. "From now on, Eli, you belong to me." I didn't know it then, but that was the moment my life truly changed. I used to think people like Adrian couldn't love, that their hearts were carved out long before they ever had a chance to feel. But then came the night he almost died for me. It was supposed to be a simple meeting. I was there as his backup, nothing more. But halfway through, the air shifted. Too many men in the room, too many hands drifting near jackets. I saw the gun before he did. Adrian, I shouted, lunging forward. The shot rang out, echoing through the warehouse like thunder. I didn't even realize I'd moved until I felt his weight slam into me, dragging us both to the floor. He'd taken the bullet in his shoulder. His men reacted instantly, guns drawn, chaos erupting. But all I could see was the blood seeping through his suit, warm against my shaking hands. Eli, his voice was tight, pained. "Get out." "No," I said, my throat raw. "Not without you." The next few minutes blurred gunfire, shouts, the screech of tires as we tore away from the docks. Back at his safe house, I refused to let anyone else touch him. My hands were steady now, cleaning the wound, stitching where I could. He never looked away from me, even when his knuckles turned white from the pain. "You're a fool," he muttered when I was done. "Maybe," I said, meeting his gaze, "but I'm your fool." Something broke in him then. Maybe it was the walls he'd built, maybe it was the lie he'd been telling himself that I was just another pawn. His hand came up, cupping my cheek with a tenderness that didn't belong in his world. "You've been mine since the day we met," he said quietly. "But I think I've been yours even longer." I wanted to kiss him. God, I wanted to. But before I could move, he pulled me into him, his lips finding mine with a desperation that made my chest ache. It was slower this time, more deliberate, like he was memorizing the shape of me. The weeks after that changed everything. He stopped keeping me in the shadows. At meetings, I stood beside him, not behind. Men who'd once ignored me now looked twice, wary. I was no longer nobody. I was Eli, the one Adrian Kane trusted. Of course, power came with danger. The rival crews saw me as his weakness. Twice they tried to take me, and twice Adrian made it clear that touching me was a death sentence. But the worst threat came from within. One of his lieutenants, a man who'd served him for years, decided he didn't like the new balance. He set us up, luring us to a deal that was nothing but a trap. We walked into that warehouse and found ourselves surrounded. "You made a mistake bringing him here," the traitor sneered at Adrian. "You let him in too close." Adrian didn't hesitate. "He's the only one I trust to stand at my side." The fight was brutal. We were outnumbered, cornered, but somehow we made it out bloodied, exhausted, alive. Later, in the back seat of the car, Adrian's hand found mine. He didn't speak, but he didn't have to. That night, lying in his bed with the city lights spilling through the window, I finally asked the question I'd been holding back. "What happens now?" He turned to me, his blue eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "Now," he said, "you stop thinking you're nobody, because you're everything to me." And for the first time in years, I believed it. We never walked away from the danger. The underworld was still ours, messy and merciless, but we walked through it together. I used to think I was just a pawn in his game. But Adrian didn't just give me a place in his world, he gave me the power to stand in it. And somewhere along the way, the ruthless alpha kingpin of the underworld became mine. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.